So today I'm going to be talking about different ways to get to know ourselves better. This is for the sake of the computer program or the spiritual program that is being downloaded on Tuesday for the year. So on Rosh Hashanah we did like a judgment. Like you show up, it's an interview, and you have to be whoever you are. You might be really good at one thing and really bad at something else, but you are just you. And then there's a new download program that in these days is being refined. And then on Tuesday night is when it starts. So before that, I took the time. I have 10 prompts here. There's 10 days between the two pieces. There's 10 days between the beginning when things are initiated. It's like in genetics we learn there's something called a start codon, and that says it's time to start the coding. And then there's many different mixtures of letters, and then at the end you have the stop codon, and this says is stop. So right now in this 10 days, the period of stop and start, in between we have our traits and our refinement of our traits and how we use them in the world, and different aspects of ourself. And each day there's an important different angle to look at it. So I'm giving 10 here. If you've been following along, I've been talking about all different topics related to returning to love, returning to self, but in general this whole channel is built on primarily self-knowledge, self-knowing, self-awareness, as a verb, as a noun, and as a state of being. So I'm going to start where medical maladies. So this is like root chakra work, but I'm not going to be there's not 10 chakras I'm working with here. I'm starting with the root, and then they kind of, some of these, because there's 10 and there's 7, but there's really 8. We have the root, then we have sacral, solar, and heart, and throat, and then there's another one there that's not really known by the 7 chakra system, and that's like the das in Hebrew is the knowledge one, and I've talked about this many times. Then in the tefillin in the back of the head is the angle where it matches, and then we have the third eye and the crown. But then there's also another one, there's a 9th one, which is like called alta major, or you would say it's like the magnet above the crown. And we would even say that in this entire system, you would say we're still a part of all life. There is no separation in life, so really just being part of life, the energy of life is really a 10th. So it could be that we get more and more holistic. We start from like a small place, a malady, like a constriction, like Mitzrayim in Hebrew, which is Egypt, but also getting stuck. And then we move into expansion to be fully whole and even growing in every single moment, no matter what happens. That's the return to love. Love is always growing, always expanding. It's in every single communication. It's the fabric of all life. And it requires also separation to receive love and to give love. There needs to be a path between two instead of just one. And if there's just one in all, then you wouldn't have anything to be 100%. There would be just it. There wouldn't be like, oh, I have 99% this. You wouldn't even be able to say I have just one. There would just be one. So when we have these separation in all the different magnetic charge points, wheels, whatever it's called in our self, or in the Kabbalah system, we would say the sphirot, the attributes, we are able to get deeper into ourselves for the sake of that oneness, using all the parts. So in this construct, getting ready for Yom Kippur, which is on, and it means the lots, Yom Kippur, like Purim. Purim is the highest level of joy. It's the randomness of joy. It's the beauty of the chaos. It's when chaos is not at all scary or overwhelming. It's when everything's just opening in front of us. The idea of creative fire, that behind us, it burns everything away. We have nothing to hold on to, nothing to look at. And in the future, it's being created from right in front of us. So that's this mindset. And now I have 10 prompts. I would say do all of them, whatever you want. First of all, I'm starting with, like I said, the root of ourself. And I'm not going to talk about how these each match a chakra, but you can see where it matches for you. I put them in a specific order. That's all the logistics. Now I'm going to go into it. So the first prompt is medical malady. The reason we have to look at this is not because there's something wrong with us or being punished, but we have to see where the darkness attacks. In other words, our body symptoms and locations are showing us where we have suspicion. So first of all, in these prompts, I go in very deep and I talk about myself, but also you have to talk about where it is located in the body without much information. And this we could see is how it got in. So first of all, I know that I broke my left ankle when I was camping. I hurt my left eye when I was poked while I was dog sitting at somebody by a plant. My right hip often feels like something is detached, and I feel like if I remember that nothing's the same after a certain point, the last point that I remember my hip being changed, I was at an ashram, I was running, And then before that, I remember something in my butt started changing, and it was after I was intimate with somebody where I did things I didn't want to do. And in the spirit of all honesty, I would say anal sex. And then when I was biking a lot, I remember it started getting more and more detached on the right thigh from the hip. And then basically now I'm 31, so a little earlier than now, I'm in my 32nd year, so maybe between 30 and 31 and a half, something like that. In my 20s, till that age, there was starting to be, like, every time I would exercise, before I even heard it, anything, there was a vulnerability there already in the actual right side of the hip on the outer thigh. So my knee, I hit when I was rollerblading on my left knee. It got snapped inside, and then I was running away from a bus from a man that I was very afraid of but I really liked, and it also got hurt. And then my neck started going off balance when I knew somebody who was lying to me and another woman about where they were at. And then my right shoulder got damaged when I lived at a place where I was trying to stretch out a relationship with somebody who I didn't love anymore, and also I was starting to be with a married man. And then something got dislocated there, but I was involved, when I was involved with somebody who was from a different culture, and I wanted to be single, but I actually got involved with this person. And then another time with another person who I stopped being with them for, and then a third person. So, and also got misaligned in my neck more. So we'd say all of this information, it sounds like we never want to go to these things, we never want to talk about those things, but that's why I do this. So that's all these root issues. These are root issues where I can find deeper healing. This is where suspicion came in. So if I'm going to be the example, I'm going to say darkness could attack me in these places because this is where I was suspicious of life, or where there was a location in my life where my body showed up to protect me from suffering. Then we go in, what do we need from the people around us? Clearly, I was not in touch with that. So this next prompt is, what do we need from people around us? And you take your time, you write it. You know, you can go back to any of my videos where I do laughing yoga, or I do tapping, or I do breathing, and try one of those if you have trouble connecting with yourself and when you want to write this, and go to one of those videos and find that kind of opening so that the stuff will come up for you, because that's how I get this. I get this when I'm open. So first of all, what I need from people is space till I'm ready, and attention in doses. Sometimes I want to be around people for a long time and it doesn't work for me. I also need time to settle in and transition out. When I go to my family, I need like 15 minutes to settle in, even though sometimes my mother wants me to sit down and start eating right away. Or I need 50 minutes to get ready to go. I need to start packing up my things. I need from people to also feed me. Sometimes I need people to make food for me or buy it just so I can get a break from my own energy. I need reassurance and encouragement, to be noticed and acknowledged, criticized, only gentle criticism. I need people to pause instead of screaming at me when upset, and instead communicate when it's passed through from a place of openness. Appreciating my time and intention and care, reminders of the bigger picture. I need from others soft and sweet affection, and the ability to say no and hear no with respect. The next prompt, we're starting to rise up. Like, these are getting to be, obviously we're moving from inner child younger and younger, even though my physical maladies came in when I was older, like in my 20s, and mainly in my 20s. Then when I was 30, it's because those places were already vulnerable. We get hit where it hurts, where it's the weakest. The weakest link is showing up. These are the places we were already suffering. So then we could see, what do I need from people around me? It's very healing just to own this. But it's even more healing when we start to realize that this is the things we give ourselves. So next is, what is my personal experience with the grief process? And that I'm bringing this in next because we often have to grieve that no one did this for us. Grieve for the parents that couldn't do it, for the partners that couldn't do it. And at first I have to feel my own displacement. Then I have to feel self-pity and loneliness. So remember, the prompt is, what is my personal experience with the grief process? You're going to have to work it out for yourself. Do anything to open yourself up. I often want to escape and not even be accepting the reality of it, and maybe even try to force something different. Or I tend to try to find people who can relate and expand my own understanding. I try to make a difference to never have to go through with it again. Independence, newness, lessness, and then connect with my creator when I'm ready, which is the possibilities, the blessings, the opportunities. My creator is me being a creator, right? But I have to connect with a higher creator, the one who wouldn't even get affected that they didn't get it. I'd say God's the source, right? So God doesn't need it from me, and if I couldn't give it, God teaches me how to grieve. And then enriching life and finding meaning, openness and flow. So clearly there was pain and suffering, there was loneliness, and then finding inside of that How do I relate to others now? How does my life become more meaningful? How do I open more? How do I flow more? I'm not going to get as attached. Then we start to move in. Who is making my decisions for me? So this is the third prompt. Fourth prompt. So number 4. And remember, there's 10 days between the beginning of the codon where we're going to be having our program for the year. Of course, we can make changes during the year, but this is when the program for the year is being set in, and then it gets actually integrated and written, like stamped in. Like if I'm going to give an example from the DNA, the RNA. The DNA has code. The RNA takes the code from the DNA. Then it gives that it takes like the opposite. It takes a mirror. It's like if you have silly putty and you press it onto a newspaper and then you look at the words that you got. When I was a kid, we used to do this. You see it the backwards way, but then you could like think of it as a stamp. When you stamp it again, now it actually has its own level. It's going to be mirrored again. So when you look at a stamp and you first stamp it in the ink, it's backwards on the stamp. You have to stamp it on a flat paper, and then you see the mirror image. So the RNA is the mirror image. Sometimes we have to go into these dark places to get the light into there. So we go into our pain, we go into our needs, we go into our grief, and now we go into our decisions. So you got to first face your maladies, then you can face your needs, then you can face your grief. So in the decisions, who makes my decisions for me is number 4. It's like in this 10-day process, number 4, day 4 would be, what's ruling me? Who do I look to for the decision? So first of all, you may not be proud of your answers, but second of all, it's worth looking at because this tells you who you are. And you're going to be this way for the year. So if you want to adjust anything, do it now. Because Tuesday night is today's Sunday. Tuesday night, in just 3 days, it's going to be like the stamp is going to be in the mirror image. You can't adjust it anymore, add any ink, take away ink. It is what it is. And at that point, you can use other tools, markers, crayons, right, to adjust. But you're not going to be able to change the original stamp. So it's worth it. So first of all, I wrote people who I have to schedule with. And I don't like my answers for this, but this is the truth, so it's very important that I did it. The mood of my significant other, whoever that is. Eating meals, making sure there's going to be enough food. So I'm making decisions sometimes not because I want to do what I'm doing, but because I need to make sure there's going to be enough. Or because the other mood or the person I'm scheduling with. I want to make sure that I have people in my life who smoke weed, so that I could always make sure I have somebody around who's a smoker or a provider or seller, so I always have the ability to get it if I need it, because I don't have a prescription. Even though I use it for pain and issues with my self-esteem and grief and all these things I've been talking about, my needs. Then I have pets I'm taking care of. Sometimes I overdo it. I personify the animal like they're going to be not okay. Then another one is stores being open. Like I have to accommodate my schedule around what time the store is open. Then whether I feel rested or calm, who can comfort me. Whether I need attention, who can invite and welcome me. So I need to make sure I have people in my life making decisions where I want to make sure that they're happy with me because they're a comforter or a welcomer. Whether I like it or not, that's who's making some of my decisions for me so far. Whether I'm confused, so I need listeners, guiders. So basically making sure I have people in my life who are welcomers, comforters, and guiders. I'll have to let them make some decisions for me because I need to go through them. This is not necessarily true, but this is how my decisions are made. And finally, God. So this is when I can pay attention and I can focus. So when I can pay attention, when I can focus, God talks to me in the moment. So this is the higher self, the intuition, many videos about this. Next is relationship to anger. We're starting to move up here because now it's like whether it's family style, patterns of repressing, patterns of just anger. So for me, I wrote 2 here. It's a big one, so I just wrote 2. First of all, I avoided at first. I was taught to hide the hurt. Anger covers disappointment and anxiety, helplessness, hopelessness, loss, confusion. We didn't learn to process in my family or channel or express or integrate emotions in their wisdom. There was a lot of shame and hate around anger and the underlying emotions. And second of all, when I feel afraid is because people are screaming at me or menacing me. It unlocks these survivalistic defenses. If I can't get away or I don't want to change location, I try to lower first the situation's intensity to say a pause is needed, or we need to be calm, or let's take a break, or please stop, or I don't like this. And then if that doesn't work, I didn't necessarily learn in my family, and I've had to learn how to be safe in anger, how to de-escalate a situation. For example, to be with an adult man who has a bigger temper than me, or someone like my father. So that is, what is my relationship to anger? So that's 5, and now we have 5 more. So what do I do for the sake of increasing care? So getting closer to the heart space. So When we care about ourselves, we don't want to be angry. It's a toxic, stressful hormone in the body. Also, if we want to be in relationships, we don't want to be hiding our hopelessness or our helplessness or our loss or our confusion. Those are important key factors to communicate in a relationship. We have to be able to say those things and integrate the wisdom over there so we don't force things in our life, whether it's at work or romance or home. And then to lower the situation's intensity is to be able to actually listen to our needs. So what can we do for the sake of increasing care is number 6. So for me, and again, you don't have to do all these at once, but these are important prompts. Touch my body gently with love, because I learned that. Number 2, put some things weekly or every other day instead of every day. And that way I can still care about what I'm doing instead of feeling like it's a burden and I don't care about it. Dancing for my own sake more often. Being direct with my communications instead of in a planned or ordered way so I can be heard the way I need in the moment. Have groceries for cooking and eating in advance that are prepared, so I don't have to worry about which stores are open or when I'm going to be eating, right? Get more sleep earlier. This brings in less physical pain, less neediness, less grief in my life. And have more time off the phone. I make better decisions. So we can start to see the theme here as we move into the higher place. So now I'm going to move closer to the throat area, which is stiff neck, and it's also the heart, the stone heart. So in Judaism, we say we got to melt the stone that's in the heart, and we got to melt the neck that's stiff. We're stiff neck people. But anyone can relate to this. So for me, there's a few here. First of all, taking the step out into uncertainty. Down. I have to pause. Cat sitting problem. Taking the step out into uncertainty, not knowing how it's going to work out, but trusting in my faith that there's enough power there to still go ahead without anger. So this is the first step. It's going to be new and I don't like it. Number 2 is practicing sharing my offerings even when no one's asking for it or matching me with me for it. This is to do with expression and to do with selfless service. Talking from my heart and my truth, my mind and my heart to become coherent in my expansion. So this is speaking up on behalf of myself or others, but also shutting up. Because it has to be talking from the heart and the truth. Otherwise, you can't speak. You shouldn't speak. I shouldn't speak. Surrendering to the one who made me like this for me to be happy and made caring and cared for. So surrendering to the one who made me like this to be happy like this means that this is okay. I can care for this one and be cared for by this one who I am. Still asking when I get no for an answer or I'm course corrected in a different direction. So being able to, take energy from that teenage boy self that everybody looks at, where he keeps asking one woman, then another girl, then he asks another girl, then he asks another girl out. And he always gets a date because he asks 10 women out every time, 10 girls. And then there's men who do that with women on dating apps. They ask 100 women out and of course they get a date. So learning from them and saying, even if I get no as an answer from one, trying with a bunch of other people and not giving up, saying I'm being course corrected to the one that will work. Why should I ask everyone for $1 when everyone's saying no, and then I go to someone and they say, hey, sure, I'll give you 100. Imagine I only have to ask 20 people and get no and then get 100. Imagine if each one was going to give me $1. Just different ways to think about it. And finally, facing that I want to disappear and give up, and yet I just stay conscious and reflect into possibility. So this is a previous video where I talked about when we want to just give up completely, and facing it and staying conscious and saying, where's the possibility? That's how we increase care, and that's how we move. That's how we melt the stiffness. Now moving more into how do I feel about myself? This is so I feel mixed feelings, from a utilitarian standpoint and also from a soft and needy standpoint. Rarely but potently, I feel exquisitely, shape-shiftingly beautiful. And this is basically more getting into the third eye, the das area, because this is where we start to see ourselves as an other. And we really spend so much time with ourselves. But it's also where we judge ourselves. It's creation, it's destruction. So obviously I see myself from a utilitarian standpoint. Am I useful? Where could I use my skills? But also from a soft and needy standpoint means I want this one to like me. I want this one to be good. And then obviously the exquisitely shape-shiftingly beautiful, it means that the nature of the Grand Canyon and of Mount Everest are both in me, the valleys and the heights, and I can see it. I can be so big and so small. It could be an ocean or a drip. Then I see that I'm smart, but not extraordinarily. And even through my loneliness and lack of peers in this type of intelligence that I have maybe in my life, it shows me that I need deeper and higher minds around me. But what that means is that I'm actually looking for that. So I can see, I need what we call chavrusa or sangha. Chavrusa in Hebrew means a partner who you learn with. And Sangha means a community. Then I have, I feel like I have a critical role in the redemption, yet I see no details confirming that pathway being laid out for me, so I end up even more impatient, bitter, and defensive. So this is where I say, well, I have a higher purpose, I have a critical role, I believe in redemption, but I don't see that things are happening, so it means that I end up feeling bitter and defensive here. So another way to deal with that is to preemptively show subtlety and crude, depending on if I want to show privilege to, if I'm judging. Like, preemptively means before I'm triggered. So showing subtlety and or crudeness, depending on whether I want to show, depending on if I want to show privilege to judge. But if it brings either, like, basically starting from a place, but we don't know where it's going to end up, we might end up feeling ashamed of how we got ourselves into this mess, or we might hate the situation so much. So starting out with like this crudeness means, and starting out with the subtlety means we get to show, like, do I want the privilege to, I want to show privilege or judgment. What I mean by that personally is like, how do I feel about myself is like, I want to show the privilege of my subtlety, or the crudeness of my judgment is going to be that I'm going to walk in with that regardless of what happens. I'm going to be that person regardless of how anyone responds to me. That's how I feel about myself, is that I could be who I am without generating my own energy about whether I'm going to be, and crude is not bad. Crude just means like it's not refined yet. So do I want to be a judge it's refined and discerning, or do I want to be like more crude and open? And that leads into the next prompt, which is, how can I be more true to myself? And then we have one more after that. How do I be more true to myself? This is coming from like seeing the world, seeing the truth. So it really ties into this last point, which is if we feel about ourselves that we're going to show subtlety or crudeness depending on the situation, and then, shame or hate comes up, it's like we didn't go in preemptively. We came in with like expectation. So preempting the situation means no matter what happens, I'm going to be this. So how can I be more true to myself is kind of the piggybacking off that. So let's say, for example, I'm going to, let's say you give an example. Somebody goes in the room, they just want to like shake their ass. There's this idea that they just literally want to shake their ass in the situation. And they're going to have dancing and this. And then people are going to say like, what are you doing? That's so embarrassing. And they're going to feel ashamed. And they're going to say, or everyone's going to say, wow, you have such bad dance moves. They're going to feel hate. But if they came in like